Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Learning Photography with Duck. I am, again, your host, Duck. Thank you for joining me on this cold and chilly February evening. Today's class is, we're going to be covering something that was suggested by BJ. And I'm noticing he's not in yet, so hopefully he'll join us because I thought this was a great one. He requested doing kind of like a page layout composition. Not a composition in terms of taking different elements and combining them into a single image, but more of a taking multiple images and combining them on a single page layout. So we're going to look at two different ways that we can do that. They both have their pros and cons, and we'll see where it goes. All right, I'm going to ask everybody if you can mute your microphones during the presentation. And oh, there he is, BJ. I'm glad you're here. This one's for you. You're muted there, buddy. All right, so what? Okay. All right, so let me switch over to, actually, no, let me go ahead and do this. Whoa. Let me share my screen so you guys can all see it. Windowed projection, share. Okay. And we'll switch over. First we'll go to Lightroom. Can everybody see my Lightroom okay? Why am I missing a...
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. What is going on here? Desktop. Okay. Hopefully now you can see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's good.
That was very strange. All right, so right now I have Lightroom open. And within Lightroom, we can kind of sort of get a rudimentary page layout. Now, Lightroom doesn't have an overly robust print module. It can do a lot of basic stuff. Because Lightroom deals with multiple images in a catalog. It's designed more for handling a lot of images in kind of like a batch format. So the page layout is designed where you can batch process a number of images. So for example, the best example I can give is if you think back to, the school photographer, where they create a package that you can buy, and it's usually an 8x10, a 5x7, a couple 4x6s, and a bunch of wallet sizes. That's exactly what Lightroom can do. It can create that type of batching of images and basically spit out those pages for a whole lot of images. So if you shoot a school and you got 300 students, you can very easily batch through all those 600 students with all these photographic packages very, very easily. And as far as how quickly, well, it depends on how powerful your computer is, because obviously batching through that many images and page setups would take a while. But Lightroom does have kind of a rudimentary system. And it comes with a bunch of different layouts that you can choose from, including, you can have contact sheets, and all you do is select a range of images and it'll auto fill them in. So this is great if you need to print out a contact sheet to either document your images for posterity in a printed format, in a thumbnail printed format, I should say, or if you need to send thumbnails for approval, things like that, right? And there's all different size contact sheets, etc. And of course, you can have the 4x6 2-up, so you can print 2 per page, and then you just cycle through each one of your images and batch process through that. So you can see it's a little limited, and you really can't customize beyond this. I mean, if you want, you can add an identity plate, but even that's kind of rudimentary and not very practical. So it's not very, very good. There is the book format that you can do that kind of extends the functionality a little bit, but even that has its limitations, especially because you're dealing with more of a book format with multiple pages rather than a single custom layout page that you can get. So if you're looking to do some creative layouts with your photography, Lightroom's not the best choice. For that, I would suggest going over to Photoshop, okay? And what I have here is just a mock page that I put together earlier today for tonight's class. But I'm going to walk you through what this is. And what I've done is I've opened up, I created a new document, and this is a tabloid size, so it's 11 by 17. So if you were to take an 11 by 17 piece of paper, fold it in half, you will get 4-page booklet at 8.5 by 11. Okay. Obviously, whatever the project is that you're working on, you will make your page appropriate to that project. So, for example, if you wanted to create a poster for your wall, or let's say you wanted to do 14 by 17 collage of maybe 3, 4, 5 images, you can very easily do it with here. You just designate what size page you want to work in. Make sure that your DPI is set for print, which is typically 300 dots per inch, and then you'll populate it. So the first thing I did was I created a 2-column grid. All right, and all I did is from the ruler, I just click and drag over, and it gives me a grid line, and I can move that grid line anywhere I want. And for this case, what I've done is I've created, like I said, a 2-column per page grid. All right, so I have my center line, which splits my full page into 2 pages, left and right. And if once you set up your page, if you do not have anything selected and you bring up the properties, right at the bottom here of the properties, you're going to see a few icons. All right. The first one is to toggle your ruler on and off. The second one is to toggle your grid on and off. And right now it's set for 1-inch grids with a 1/4 inch division. So each one of these squares is a 1/4 inch. So what I've done is I brought my first grid line to the center, and then I created my 1/2 inch margin all the way around. All right. And then I took that and I created what's called a gutter in the center. All right. So that way I can have 2 columns, column on the left, column on the right on page 1, column on the left, column on the right on page 2. So pretty standard typesetting type stuff or graphic design stuff. Okay. So as long as I keep it within that border, I know that I have a 1/2 inch leeway before I get to the edge of my sheet of paper. All right, so for this, what I want to do is I want to create some kind of visual layout that allows me to place various images onto the page. So the first thing I did is I took a rectangle, just go to the rectangle tool. All right, and just click on rectangle, and then you just draw a rectangle. And what I did is I kept the proportions to that of an 8x10. All right, you can make whatever proportions you want. If you want something that's more of a 4x6 or 9x6, aspect ratio. You can do whatever you want, or you can create custom ratios or square ratios, and you'll see that we can even get into shapes. All right. So what I've done here is I just made a basic rectangle. And the rectangle goes across 2 columns. And what I want to do is use this as a placeholder so that when I bring an image into this document, I know where to place it. Make sense? Okay. Then I created just some dummy text because in my head, I want to create something nice, a nice little layout. Maybe it's got a little descriptive text. And I did the same exact thing to the second page. But for the second page, we're going to switch it up a little bit. All right. Within Photoshop, we have a tool that allows us to use an actual physical placeholder for an image. And this is an image frame. And we do the same thing. We could just click on it, click on our page, and it's going to create a rectangle. But you're going to notice that this rectangle is represented a little bit differently. It has a big X through it, right? Because this is now a placeholder rather than a physical rectangle that I drew, all right? So if I were to print this out, the rectangle on the left-hand side would print as a light gray rectangle, whereas the rectangle on the right will not print because this is just a placeholder. There's no information attached to it yet. All right. And then the last thing I did is I just created a little bit of text above it, just for some symmetry's sakes. Okay. So we have two different ways of being able to place an image into our page. All right. So what I've done is from Lightroom, I went and opened up two images. I have this one of City Hall in Milford, and this one, which is a processed version of the statue in front of the City Hall. And I said, I want to create a nice 2-page spread with these two images. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you're going to click on the little thumbnail here, click and drag it up to the tab that is your page layout, and then go ahead and drop it in. All right, now it's going to give me a warning saying that the bit depth difference is not the same. We're going from a 16-bit to an 8-bit or vice versa or something like that. So it's just a little warning saying me that there's a different bit depth. Doesn't matter in this case, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes that I want to proceed. And it's going to drop it onto my page on top of pretty much everything else. Okay. And you can see that, it's fairly large resolution in comparison to the 11 by 17 page. All right. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and resize this down a little bit closer to what is going to fit within the two columns. All right. So now I can say, well, how do I want to fit this? Do I want to use the aspect ratio of that particular image, or do I want to go with the aspect ratio of the placeholder that I put onto the page? And in this case, I'm just going to toggle this off for a second. I like the way this particular layout looks with the more squarish format. So I want to keep this layout. All right. So that means that I'm going to need to enlarge my image so that it fits at least to the size, if not a little bit bigger than that placeholder. All right. And now you can say, well, now you have two objects. How is that going to work as far as layout? Well, what we can do is we can use what are called clipping masks. And what this means is we tell Photoshop that what we want to do is we want to constrain how much we see of this image. We want to constrain it to the physical aspects of that underlying rectangle. All right. So what we can do is we can drop that below our rectangle layer. All right. So the rectangle is now on top. And if we click on the rectangle and then press the Alt or Option key and hover the mouse in between right in between the two layers, holding the Alt or Option, you're going to see that little square with the downward arrow. That is going to clip. Oh, did I do it the wrong way? Yes, I did. All right. It goes above. See, this is how often I use it. All right, it goes above. We're going to clip it to that rectangle. All right. And now what you're going to notice is everything that is outside of that rectangle, that's part of that underlying image, gets clipped. All right. It's not visible. And if I move this around, you'll notice that outside of the border of that rectangle, you can't see anything. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move and position my image to how I like it. So maybe a little bit more towards the center there. Okay. And it is clipped to my placeholder. All right. And the nice thing about that placeholder is that I can give it any color border that I want. Okay. It doesn't matter what fill color you give it. Obviously, the fill is going to be replaced by whatever you clip to it. But you can have a colored border. Okay. So if I go to my rectangle and bring up the properties, all right, you can see where it says here under appearance, I can give it a stroke, color, and width. And even if I want to create something fancy like dotted or dashed lines, you know, say you're creating something that you want to represent like a coupon where people can cut it out. Of course, you'll use the dotted lines. So in this case, we're going to keep it to solid line. I have it set to about 2 pixels. So if we click off, we can see, actually, let me take the grid lines off so you can see it a little bit better. All right, and if I zoom in here, you'll see that it has a gray border all the way around, okay? All right, so that's one method. The other method is with our placeholder, and that is the second method where we used the built-in placeholder that is available from, you know, with Photoshop, the frame tool, okay? And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and attach an image to this. So I'm going to go back to my other image that I opened up, this one of the soldier. Again, I'm going to come to my little thumbnail on the layers panel. I'm going to drag it over to the tab for my page, and I'm going to drop it right over that frame. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And you're going to notice a slight difference. It automatically clipped it into that frame. All right, and just like the other one, as I move it around, everything around the outside of that frame is masked off. All right, and obviously now I'm going to need to resize this. So I can go ahead and resize my image, put it into my frame. Okay, and we are done. Okay.
Question for you, Duck.
Yes.
When you drug that picture,
Yep.
it's not quite clear how you got it to the other canvas.
Okay.
But can you just walk back through to where you were? You went to the individual image.
Yep. All right. So right here at the top, I have this is my page layout, which is currently displayed. And then I have my 2 images in their own tabs, okay? So that they're separate, okay?
Yep.
So I want to bring this in to my page layout. All right? So I can click on this icon here, this layer, all right, because this is the layer that contains my image, okay? I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, all right? And see how you can see a ghosted image of that layer.
Where is it dragging to?
All right. So right now I have it in the center of my screen. All right. So can you see that ghosted rectangle?
Yes.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that ghosted rectangle to the top. All right. Onto the tab for my page layout. All right. Once I hover over that tab, it automatically switches to that tab. All right. So now you see that my page layout document is now open. All right. And I'm still holding it. Now I'm going to drag it down. You can still see the ghosted rectangle. All right. I'm going to hover that right over the frame that I want to attach it to, and then let go. All right. It's warning me that it's got a different bit depth. I'm going to ignore it, and it pastes it in. Okay. Now you can see it, because the resolutions are different between the original image and this new page, I have to resize. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and resize this. Center it.
Can you go over how you're resizing? I don't know how to resize.
In the corners of any object, or in the centers of any horizontal or vertical edge, you're going to see these little squares. All right. All you got to do is hover over that square. You're going to see your cursor change, and then you can just move it around. Okay. All right. And if you want to stretch it, you just grab it from the side. All right. If you want to make it tall, you just grab it from the center, and so on. All right. If you want to keep the constraint, you just use the shift key. All right.
Hey, Doc.
Yeah.
When you're dragging that icon, is that similar to just taking the active picture with the pointer tool, drawing it up to the target, and then placing it into the target and making it like a composite? Does that do the same thing?
If I'm understanding you correctly, yes. Yeah, it would be the same thing. You know, so for example, I have this image open and I want to composite this into it. I just click, drag it, drop it in. All right.
Yeah,
and
what I meant was is you take the active picture and you drag it up to your target image, the one you want to put it on, and then you drop it in. When you hold it up there,
yeah,
on the upper left, it makes it active. You release it, and it comes into the picture.
Correct.
It's the same. Okay.
Same exact thing.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Wait a minute. I thought I had resized this. What the heck? All right. Good. There we go. I position my soldier in my frame, and I am good to go. Okay. Now, so you can see how you can very quickly build templates for yourself. All right. So I can take this and I can save this as a template. So whenever I need a layout like this, I don't have to always reinvent the wheel. I can go ahead and use this. And of course, because all of these are editable images, you can do all kinds of things, such as put layer effects on them, transparencies. You can add other elements to it. If you want, you can even take an image and drop it as a background image, or maybe even take a texture and drop it as a background image. Actually, let me see. I have textures. Let's do that. Where are my textures? I should know where they are. Backgrounds and textures. Let's see, what do I want? Backgrounds. Let's go textures. All right, so let's say this is a good one. All right, let's say I wanted to take this. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up in Photoshop. So edit in Photoshop. All right, once it's in Photoshop, I can go ahead and click and drag that. All right. And right now it's on top of everything. I want to bring it below everything onto my background. All right. And I can go ahead and resize this to my page. All right. Maybe give it an opacity. Okay. Maybe even do a little curves adjustment on it. Let's lock that. Add a little curves adjustment to it. There we go. Okay. And now I have a textured page. All right. So this is a nice way. If anybody does any kind of retail photography, whether it's, you're doing wedding photography, or maybe you're photographing kids doing their sports, and you want to do a composite image of their, the kid in, maybe a close-up headshot, one in their full uniform, and maybe one like an action pose. You can very easily composite your arrangement on a page, save it as a template, and you can have your text placement for filling in the kid's name, maybe their jersey number, the name of the school, and you can have all kinds of effects on it, like drop shadows or color glows, anything that finds your fancy. Get the school logo on there. So if you're shooting sports for a particular school, you can place the school logo in the corner, and you save it as a template. So all you got to do is take the photo of the kids, come back, you process the images in Lightroom, import the images into Photoshop, drop them into their designated places, and kick out the finished document as a printable JPEG, and you're good to go. Okay? So it kind of simplifies things. All right? Now, we're not going to get into what I'm going to say next. We're not going to get into that today, but I want you to be aware, if you do book stuff like anything for a school, you could even automate Photoshop to automatically drop in the kids' images into the designated areas. You print out or you export the finished piece, all right? And Photoshop will automatically advance to the next kid, automatically populate the images with the respective pictures, kick out that printable JPEG, and move on. So you can really automate it. Let's say you got 20 kids in the team, you can automate the whole entire process, where all you really have to do is concentrate on the individual edits of the kids, all right? And then from Lightroom, kick them into a folder, that is preset to automatically populate the template that automatically kicks out either a PDF or a JPEG or whatever it is you want, right? That is something that Photoshop can do. Again, I'm not going to get into that because it's a little bit more complicated, all right, but is available, all right? We're just going to keep to making these page composites, all right? So now, let's say I wanted to add, before I go even further, all right? So I showed you two different ways of creating these, all right? One was with a rectangle, and the other one was with a frame, okay? Now, there are pros and cons to each. And one of the things that that I noticed about the frames is that you're kind of limited with what you can do, okay? The frame, as far as I know, is pretty much just a rectangle, okay? Mind you, I don't really use frames, so I'm not 100% sure of what I'm talking about when it comes to frames here, right? Just to be crystal clear, all right? But I've never got into frames because personally I found them a little lacking, all right? The best thing about frames, though, is that I can grab the frame, move it around, and it's going to bring the image with it. All right, so if you notice, I move this around, the image goes with it. If I were to grab the rectangle that I drew and move that around, okay, where are we? Yeah. All right, you notice that I'm having a hard time grabbing it. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. If I grab it, that rectangle is moving, but the image that is attached to that frame through the clipping path or the clipping layer does not move. All right. In order to move the two together, I have to select both layers and move them together. So often it makes better sense when you get your image in the position clipped to the frame that you want, is to take those two layers and group them right away. Okay, so Control G or Command G for you Mac people. All right, and then you can just go ahead and label it image 1. Okay. All right, now when you grab it, all right, the whole thing moves with you. Okay, but you'll notice that my rectangle that actually controls it sits outside the bounding box that represents my clipped frame. All right, so that makes it when you have auto alignments and snap to, you'll notice that it's snapping into the corner of my guides here, but it wants to snap to the outline of the image, not the outline of my frame. All right, so that makes it a little bit more awkward. All right. But the nice thing about it is I can take that rectangle, and if I want to create rounded corners, I can very easily do that. All right. If I want to make scalloped corners, I can very easily do that. All right.
So, Doc?
Yeah.
Do you need to have the frame in order to manage the multiple images, or could you put just the image in there?
You can. All right. Okay. So
Let me just explain where I'm coming from. Is I
Yep.
have 7 images of varying sizes that I want to put on that page. So
okay.
if I try to frame each one of them, it becomes quite a challenge.
All right. So okay. So let's say let's see if I get your meaning. All right. So let me go ahead and go back to Lightroom. I'm going to take another image. Let's say this one of the flag. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open it up in Photoshop, drag it into my layout. Okay. And now this is a standalone image. All right. And I can say, you know what? I don't really need any fancy frames. I don't need to make this any different shape. I don't need to change the aspect ratio of this. Okay. I can go ahead and just resize this and place it where I need it. So, you know, I'm not sure that answers your question.
It did perfectly.
All right. However, all right. Okay. And again, you can add whatever effects you want, drop shadows, the whole 9 yards. All right. The only thing is you really can't put a border on it. All right. So, for example, let me just change this up for one quick second. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this. I'm gonna make my background layer 100% opacity. All right, and actually let me make it darker. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a very dark background. Okay, and I said, well, you know, what I want to do is I want some kind of separation between my image and the background. All right, so what I can do is on the background, I can go ahead, let me open this up. I can say my stroke, I want the stroke to be white, all right? And I want something nice and heavy, maybe 8 points, okay? Or maybe not quite white, maybe a little bit off-white, okay? A light gray, okay? And of course, we're going to need our text to be, you know, white. Where's my text? Paragraph, character. Where are we? There we go. Text. White. Okay. Enter. Oh, what happened? I deleted my text. Escape. Control Z. All right. There we go. Let's try this again. Make my text white. Okay. There we go. All right. So if I wanted to do the same thing to my flag, all right, I could do it, but it's not very easy. I would have to go ahead and open up my layer style, go to the stroke, give it a stroke color. All right. hit OK. Looks like Zoom doesn't like pop-up windows, does it? Okay, there we go. All right, let's say we want to give that 8 pixels. All right, we're gonna position it on the outside. Okay, ooh, pixel difference. Let's go 12 pixels. All right, and say OK. And now we have something similar. All right, so you can do it. All right. But I kind of like the flexibility of having a container that I can drop things into. All right. The biggest benefit to having a container is when you make templates. All right. Because without this image, there is nothing there to let you know that an image belongs there for that particular layout. All right. However, with this one up here, all I have to do is delete that image and I still have my placeholder. So I can then open up something new. All right. Let's go to this one. Drop it in. I'm going to go ahead and size it up a little bit. And I am going to go ahead and hit OK. Control, Command. Oh, wait a minute. I know where I am. There we go. There we go. Go ahead and clip it in. Alt. All right. Alt between the two. Oh, man, what's going on here? My mouse is being a little fussy here. All right. Alt or Option, hover between the two layers. When you get that symbol, click, and it clips it to that container. All right. You can't do that with just a regular image. Okay. So that's the benefit, is just being able to make templates. Okay.
Excellent.
All right.
Are you getting into a file size problem now with all these images?
No. Well, yeah. If once you start getting into a bunch of large files, then yeah. But what you can do is you can save your document as a template, and because there are no images attached to it, the file size isn't going to be overly large. All right, it's going to be just as large as what it takes to create that template. So, for example, I have this background image. All right. If you use a background image that is very, very large and you size it down, just rasterize it to that size and you're good to go. All right. When you import your images, when you kick out a file, it's going to kick out a processed file for you to go ahead and print. So you're not really bloating anything, because unless of course you want to save the document for some reason. Okay. But typically a lot of times things like this, you'll just generate the file that you need. And oftentimes I don't really save the project file unless it's something I know I'm going to be coming back to time and time again. All right. But at that point, you know, if you want, you could even rasterize down to the size that you need rather than keeping an overly large image. Okay.
Good.
All right. But there's definitely a benefit to being able to build templates like this, because the nice thing is you build it as you need it, and then once you built it, you can always refer back to it. Okay. And if you want, the nice thing about this, I have one template. All right. I've already designated the kind of font that I want to use. I may have established the color palette that I want to use for this particular template, and other style elements. And if I want to change the layout, all I have to do is copy this, duplicate it as a new document, make my changes. You know, let's say I wanted to do 4 up instead of, you know, 1 horizontal, 1 vertical. All right, I can go ahead and delete this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so now I can say, okay, I'm gonna bring my text over here. All right, and that text is going to be, what the heck happened? All right. I'm going to go ahead and create a placeholder here. All right. Once I have that placeholder, I can go ahead and make a duplicate. Oh, where are we? Control J, duplicate. All right. Control J, duplicate. Control J, duplicate. All right, and I have 4 placeholders that I can now use as placeholders for images. Okay, and I've retained all the elements for my page. All right, so I want to create, you know, text document there. All right, make it white. There we go.
So if you were doing a group headshot of an organization, this would be a perfect layout for just incorporating individual headshots into the frames. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you can, for example, let's say this is my headshot number 1. I go ahead and drop it in, all right, into that first one. All right, and I now have my headshot number 1.
Right.
All right, and I'll just go ahead and drop into the next one and the next one and the next one. All right, and then once I have my page filled out, I can go ahead and print it, kick it out as a PDF, kick it out as a JPEG to send to, you know, your printer, whatever it is that you need. Okay, and with very little work because the template's already there. All right, now they call you, you know, 6 months down the road. They say, hey, we got to get rid of person number 3 and replace it with somebody else. You just go in, delete that image, drop somebody else in, and you're good to go. You know?
Yep. Easy enough.
All right. Any questions on any of these techniques? All right. Okay. So now the fun thing is we can take and we can create other shapes. All right. With something like, actually, let's go. Right. When you actually have a physical shape rather than a frame, we seem to have lost our network. Weird. Sorry about that, guys. Bill, got your message. Thank you. Or BJ, got your message. All right. Okay. Where did I lose you guys? Because it's like. I was going over how you can create a non-square shape, right?
I think that you were just starting that.
Okay.
Still on the rectangle.
All right. So we can take any shape that we can create, whether it's a circle, a star, ellipsoid, even a custom shape that you can create.
Hey, Duck, I think you got to go to share screen. I can only see your.
Oh. We dropped everything, didn't we? Okay, hold on. Where is my...
I see his Photoshop.
Yeah.
A little circle.
Window, share.
Whoa.
Yeah. Hold on, give me a second.
Trippy.
Yes. There we go. We good? Holy smokes. That's Xfinity for you, Comcast. I've been having problems with my internet dropping out. Not too often, but when it happens, it's very frustrating. And this is the first time it's happened during a live presentation. So my apologies. All right. So anyhow, a non-rectangle, it's the same exact thing. You just go ahead and take your whatever image you want to drop into it and go ahead and clip it. Alter option, hover between the two layers. It clips it. You can then drag your image around to where you need it and you're good to go. Okay.
I think you made a good case for using the frames.
Well, frames over shapes. All right, because the frames, I can't do a circle. I don't know how. There might be a way. I just don't know it.
No, I mean,
all right.
I guess I mean the shapes. Exactly what you're doing here, rather than
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the way I originally learned it, because way back when, Photoshop, if I recall, didn't have frames. I think that's a new addition. Frames got brought in from a different program, but once you have a shape, you can do all kinds of stuff with it, including, adding a drop shadow. All right. So you can, create drop shadows just like you would with any other object that you place onto your document. Okay. And of course, you have the full ability to layer things. So if I wanted to, I could even add text. Great American values. Okay. Go ahead and say enter. Resize that up. Oh, and of course, I had my caps on when I wrote that. It figures. Great American values. Okay. And, give it whatever color that you want. I'll go with something, like a bright yellow. We're going to go ahead and give that a drop shadow as well. Maybe not so far off. Bring it in a little bit closer. Okay. Make it more of a headline, and all kinds of good stuff. Okay. I'm not going to, complicate things too much, but if you can think it, you can do it. All right. And, if you need, like BJ, you said, if you need, 5, 6, 7 elements on a page, you just create 5, 6, 7 shapes.
Yep.
And then clip them to each shape. And again, like I would suggest is once it's clipped, all right, all right, see how it's got that little down arrow there? And actually you'll see that the icon has shifted over. It's not quite in line with everything else. It's shifted in. Once it's clipped, just shift hold, the two together, group it, all right, and label it. All right, and now you're able to move them around. Okay.
Yeah, I think what you're describing here is much more organized than what I had pictured, which was essentially dropping 7 images of different sizes onto one page and then trying to put a label under each one. And it sounds, now it begins to feel like I was creating chaos.
Yeah, but even with this process, you will need to resize images in order to fit the container. All right. But the nice thing is that, like for example, you gave the example of the whale tails. All right. So for those of you who are not privy to this, BJ sent me an example of a whale breaching the water, and he had several shots of the whale's tail out of the water, and he wanted to create a composite of, I guess, showing the progression of the movement of this whale in the water. So think of it kind of like a panel cartoon where each frame shows a different section of that movement. The nice thing about this, by being able to clip it to a container, is that you can lay out your containers so it has a appealing composition on your page, and all the containers can be the exact same size, have all the exact same preferences to it. And then when you clip the image, you can tweak and fine-tune each individual image so that it represents the storyline adequately. So for example, with the whale tails, you can have the first image, you can have the whale's tail a little bit closer to you, to the viewer, by filling that container a little bit more. And as you go down the line and you see the tail now disappearing into the water, you can start scaling back so it appears like you're getting a little bit further away from the whale. All right. And then you can look at it and say, okay, well, I don't like that concept. I think I'd rather have them all roughly in the same exact area. It doesn't take much effort to go ahead and tweak those few frames so that, you get the composition that you want. But because you're not moving the containers, you're only moving the images within the container, you can fine tune it. You can size it up, size it down. Maybe one is a little bit crooked. You can give it a little bit of an angle. So that way you get that uniform look across all the panels. Okay?
Well, with what I'm trying to do, you've been an immense help here, because I'm trying to collect a large number of photographs from an African safari. And I want, let's say, 4 of these page layouts, but one page would have birds, one page might have elephants, one page might have, cheetahs. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to be consistent, and I had no idea of how to create those containers to create the consistency.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which would be, I suppose, the same as putting together a booklet in what you're really describing here.
Right. And the nice thing is that, you can go ahead and save as a regular Photoshop document, but you can put it into a templates folder, So you can have a folder that's specifically set aside for all your templates. All right. So, for example, with the Africa photos, you might create a folder that contains the templates just for that particular project. That way, you always know where to go to find those templates. Right. So when you work on that project, everything's right there.
One question about templates.
Mm-hmm.
This is a PSD file? Right?
Correct.
Same as any PSD file.
Correct.
You're utilizing it as a template, repeatable.
Correct.
The base file there.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
There's no saving as like in Microsoft Word, you could save as a template.
I believe there is.
It doesn't sound like it's necessary.
Because you can. You can save these as template. It's been a while since I've done that, so I don't know if I can recall by memory, but I believe
what you laid out here, Doc, is perfect for what I think any of us need to do.
I believe to save it in a template, you just have to save it to Adobe's template folder.
Okay.
All right. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Don't quote me, because I'm trying to go by memory. But because Photoshop is pulling it from a templates folder, it's going to open it up as untitled. All right.
Okay.
And then it'll allow you to save it to your own location with your own, file name. But again, don't quote me. I'm kind of running on memory here, and my memory on that part of it is a little faulty because it's been a while since I've done it. All right.
I think what you described is perfect.
Okay. And the nice thing is you can save these to the cloud. If you have a cloud account, you can save it to the cloud, and that way you can access those templates from any computer you're using Photoshop from. Okay, as long as you have your account connected to it. So okay. So that's probably the biggest benefit of creating these containers is just ease of use, repeatability. And at that point, you're just, if you need a new template, you just modify what you've already created rather than reinvent the wheel, So, okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, that was today's presentation. I hope you guys learned something.
Oh yeah, you confused me again. Thank you.
I don't want to confuse. I just want to fry brain cells. I just want
replay.
I just want to fry brain cells. I don't want to confuse too much. So
I don't have too many of those cells left.
you and me both. Yeah. So the only trick you need to remember is to clip. All right. Just, again, if you hover in between the image layer and the container layer, all right, whatever shape you want to contain to, right, you hover in between and you press and hold the Alt or Option key. Once you see that cursor change, just unclip, clip, unclip, clip, okay? And it clips it. Okay? And then again, make sure that you group it so that way when you move it, it all moves as one. All right?
So it'll be a very valuable replay.
Cool. All right.
Thanks, Doc.
Cool.
Thanks, Doc.
Cool.
Thanks,
Cool.
Doc.
You are welcome.
Okay, bye.
All right. Next Monday is general Q&A. So get your questions ready. I have no topic picked out yet. So if anybody has any suggestions, you can go ahead and drop them into the Facebook page, or you can send me a text message or email message, and we'll see if we can cover it.
Hey, Doc?
Yeah.
I thought this went till 8:30.
Well, no, it usually goes until people have no more questions.
Go till we're done.
Oh, because I kind of got on late. I was doing something else. Too many things at the same time.
Yeah, we start at 6:30. So you came in at the very end.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions, I'll be, other than rehashing everything, I'll be more than happy to answer whatever questions you have.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have questions about this because I didn't really understand it. But what
You'll
was
have
this
this
supposed
up.
to be? I'm sorry.
You'll have this up on YouTube. What, tomorrow?
Well, usually I process it as soon as we disconnect. And it takes usually about an hour for all the processing and uploading. So it'll be up tonight. So give me about an hour. Okay. But yeah, it'll definitely be available for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, guys.
Doc.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Doc.
Be safe.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.